There were screams coming from my house. The house I'd locked, the house I wasn't even in. I was 1,200 miles away on a work trip when my neighbor called and asked, "Is everything okay over there?" He said people were coming and going at night, and the sounds weren't normal. I laughed at first, because what else do you do when someone tells you your empty house sounds like a horror movie? But when I got home and saw the spotless counters, the freshly folded towels, the scent of incense I didn't own, I stopped laughing. So I installed cameras, and what I found wasn't just disturbing. It was betrayal disguised as healing. And it started with my own mother. There's something off about returning to a house that's too quiet. I'd been gone for 12 days, Portland this time. Conference rooms, catered sandwiches, polite laughter at things no one really found funny. By the end of it, I was craving my couch, my silence, and the kind of meal that comes out of a microwave and asks for nothing. I landed late, drove straight home, parked like I always do, crooked in the driveway, too tired to fix it. The porch light was on. That was the first thing. I don't leave lights on. Second thing, Jeff, my neighbor, was standing by his mailbox like he'd been waiting. Jeff is 72, wears flannel in summer, and keeps a rake by his front door like a religious artifact. Nice man, watches everything. "Rachel," he called as I was pulling my suitcase up the steps. "Hey, Jeff," I smiled, already reaching for my keys. He didn't smile back. "You all right?" he asked. I blinked. "Yeah, just got back." He hesitated. "You didn't have anyone watching the place, did you?" I paused. "No, why?" His eyes narrowed. "Because we heard something last week, late, around midnight." I frowned. "What kind of something?" He looked around like he wasn't sure if he should say it. Then he leaned in just a little. "Screaming." I actually laughed. It came out too loud and sharp. "Screaming?" He nodded, serious. "Like someone was hurt. My wife wanted to call the cops." I shook my head. "Jeff, I was in Portland. The house was locked. Empty." Jeff didn't argue. He just nodded once, like he'd heard that line before from someone else. "Well, maybe check your locks anyway." I didn't know what to say to that, so I just gave a tired thanks and let myself in. The door creaked like it always does. The hallway smelled faintly of eucalyptus, my air freshener. The thermostat read 68, the same setting I'd left it on. But the house felt off. Not dangerous, just too orderly. I dropped my bag, kicked off my shoes, and walked toward the bedroom. That's when I saw it. My bed was made. I don't make my bed. Not like this. Corners tucked in like a hotel, pillowcases ironed. Even the throw blanket was folded diagonally with surgical precision. I stood there for a second, confused. Then I noticed the carpet, vacuum lines, perfect, straight, fresh. And the mirror above my dresser? Not a single smudge. That thing's been fogged since 2021. My stomach tightened. I reached for my phone and called the one person who had a key. She picked up on the second ring. "Sweetheart," my mom said, way too cheerful. "Back from Portland already?" "Yeah," I said slowly. "Just got in. Quick question. Did you come by?" "Oh, just to water the plants," she chirped. "That poor fiddle leaf was crying out for hydration." "And the bed?" I asked. "The carpet? The mirror?" She laughed. "Well, I may have done a little tidying. You know me." "Mom." "Oh, come on. It was just a few things. The place was a mess. I didn't touch anything important." I exhaled. "You sure you were the only one here?" Silence. Then, "Of course, why?" "No reason," I lied. We hung up after she reminded me, again, that I'm still young enough to date a dentist if I'd just try harder. I set my phone down and sat on the edge of the too-perfect bed. The air felt wrong, like someone else had breathed it, like I had walked into a version of my life that wasn't mine anymore. And for the first time in years, I locked the bedroom door behind me, just in case. The next morning, the light hit the dresser mirror and nearly blinded me. That mirror hadn't sparkled in years. I used to joke that it had emotional residue, a kind of permanent fog that no amount of Windex could touch. But now, it gleamed like it was auditioning for an ad. The scent of lemon cleaner clung to the air like perfume from a stranger. I walked barefoot to the kitchen. Every surface was spotless. The dishes I'd left drying by the sink were gone, replaced with perfectly stacked bowls and neatly aligned mugs, like someone had restaged my cabinets for a photo shoot I never signed off on. I opened the spice drawer. It had been alphabetized. I hadn't done that, ever. And my cumin was missing. That's when it started to settle in. Not just the discomfort, but the calculation. This wasn't some innocent drop-in visit with a watering can and a dust rag. Someone, my mother, had gone through my house with intention, purpose, a kind of curated invasion wrapped in lavender oil and passive-aggressive concern. And this wasn't the first time. I went back to my office, pulled out my planner, and flipped through the pages. Business trips, Seattle, San Diego, Denver, Portland. Every 2 months like clockwork. I stared at the dates, March, June, this one in August. And every time I'd come back, the house had felt tidier. But I'd brushed it off. too tired to question the exact placement of coasters or the sudden absence of that ugly mug my ex had left behind. Now it all formed a picture, clearer than I wanted. There was a pattern, a rhythm. Every time I left, she came. At first, maybe it was what she said it was, watering plants, checking mail, but then it turned into cleaning, then organizing, then redecorating. And I let it slide because that's what you do when your mother wants to help, and you're just grateful she's speaking to you again. I'd grown up in a family where sharing wasn't optional. My sister got what she needed. I got what was left. Space, money, time. It all flowed one way. And when I said no, I was labeled cold, ungrateful, the daughter with walls. So when I finally bought my house, it was more than real estate. It was mine. Every wall, every drawer, every messy pile of receipts I hadn't sorted since April, it all meant something. It was mine to neglect, mine to misplace. And now it wasn't just clean, it was rewritten. I called my mom again that afternoon. No answer. I texted, "Thanks for watering the plants. Please don't do anything else next time." Her reply came an hour later. "You're welcome. I'll try not to clean, you know how I get." A winky face, like this was funny. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my laptop, clicked on my home security dashboard. Empty. Of course it was. I hadn't set up cameras. Why would I? It was my space. It was supposed to be safe, untouched when I was away, mine when I returned. But now the house felt like a set, like someone had borrowed my identity for a week and left it just intact enough to fool me. That night I made tea and stood at the window watching the porch light flicker. My reflection in the glass didn't quite feel like mine. It was as if I'd walked into a life that was being gently repurposed by someone else's hands. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. I didn't want to be paranoid. But I wasn't imagining this. The place was clean in a way I never lived, and that was no longer comforting. It was a warning. I didn't want to be the kind of person who installs cameras inside her own house. You know the type, distrustful, paranoid, watching grainy footage like it's a hobby. That wasn't me. I wanted to believe in boundaries, in trust, in the idea that locking your front door meant something. But belief is a luxury you give up once your cumin disappears and your mother starts folding your sheets like a cruise ship steward. So I caved. I ordered 5 mini cameras, small, discreet, cloud-connected. One for the living room, one in the hallway, one for the kitchen, one above the entryway, and one in the corner of my bedroom, pointed at the door, not the bed. I'm cautious, not creepy. Installation took less than an hour. Then I waited. My next trip had already been booked. 3 nights in Oklahoma City for a rollout meeting with a healthcare client. Nothing exciting. Just another hotel, another time zone, another tiny shampoo bottle I'd forget to bring home. I left a polite text before I flew out. "Hey Mom, headed to Oklahoma. If you want to water the plants, thank you. But please don't clean or move anything. Seriously, just the plants." She replied 10 minutes later, "Of course I'll try my best. Safe travels." The smiley face again. Innocent maybe, or mocking. I couldn't tell anymore. The first day was quiet. She came by around noon, stayed maybe 20 minutes. I watched the footage from my hotel that evening, her watering the monstera in the corner, fluffing the pillows, straightening a photo on the bookshelf. Nothing huge, annoying, sure, but manageable. The second day? That's when it happened. It was a little after 8 p.m. I had just ordered room service, grilled cheese and tomato soup because I was feeling 12, and decided to open the camera feed. At first, everything was still, dim living room lights, no motion, the kind of peaceful stillness you expect from an empty house. Then the front door opened. A man stepped in, late 40s, broad-shouldered, wearing jeans and carrying a duffel bag. He didn't pause, didn't look around, just walked straight through like he belonged. I sat up so fast I spilled soup on the blanket. 2 minutes later, someone else came in. A woman this time, long silver braid, flowing shawl, wine bottle in hand. Then another woman, then a man with a portable speaker, then a fourth, dragging what looked like a meditation cushion. They weren't loud, no one knocked, no one acted like a guest. They acted like residents. I didn't blink, I didn't breathe. They moved with familiarity, through the living room into the kitchen. One of them pulled open my fridge, another lit incense. And then someone started rearranging the furniture. They pushed back my coffee table, formed a circle with the chairs, laid down rugs I didn't own. Someone unrolled what looked like a mat. Another person set out candles, crystals, a Bluetooth speaker that started playing soft, rhythmic music. I stared. Not just at the scene, but at the feeling crawling across my skin. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a routine, a ritual. And I was the only one who didn't know it was happening. My phone buzzed, a reminder for my morning call with the client. I turned it over and muted it, because I couldn't look away. This was my house. These were strangers. And I had no idea how deep this went, or who else knew. The living room was full. 8 people, maybe 9, sprawled out across my furniture like they'd done this before. The lights were low, that soft amber glow that usually means comfort, but now it just felt invasive. Someone dimmed my lamp. Another lit a candle on the bookshelf I built myself during lockdown. I watched, stunned, as a woman sat cross-legged on my rug, and began laying out small black cases. Not makeup, not tools. These were adult items. Shiny, strappy, not subtle. My hands clenched around the laptop. Then, the music shifted. Something tribal, heavy on drums, hypnotic. One of the men had taken off his shirt. Another person laughed, high-pitched, like a release. A woman danced slowly, barefoot, trailing a scarf in the air like she was performing in a dream. I closed the laptop. Not because it was over, because I couldn't breathe. That was my sofa. That was my living room. I eat cereal there. I curl up on that rug with coffee and books on Sunday mornings. It wasn't just that they were there, it was how normal it all seemed. As if I had become the guest, as if I were intruding. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I hesitated, then picked up. Hi, is this Rachel Connors? Yes. This is Officer Graham with the Oklahoma City Police Department. We're responding to a report of an unauthorized gathering at your residence tonight. Are you aware of anyone currently using the property? I froze. No, I'm in Oklahoma. I'm traveling for work. The house should be empty. A pause. We have several individuals on site. Some are claiming they were not aware of being recorded. Others say they were given verbal permission. Your parents are currently present. They claim to have your consent. They don't. Can you confirm that no one was given permission to host an event at the residence? Yes, I told my mother only to water the plants. I have the message. Please keep that message. You may be contacted for a statement. You're not currently in any legal trouble, but zoning, licensing, and privacy violations are under review. I swallowed hard. Okay. He hung up. I didn't. I just stared at the black screen of my phone until it lit up again. This time it was her. My mother. I let it ring, once, twice, 5 times. Then I answered. Sweetheart, she said, breathless. Listen, just tell the police you knew, okay? That's all. Tell them it was fine. That was her opening line. Not, are you okay? Not, I can explain. Just cover for us. I didn't say anything. She rushed on. It was just a little healing circle, like the old days. Nothing dangerous, just friends. You don't understand, Rachel. This helps people. No, I said, I don't understand. What were you doing in my house? She paused. We didn't hurt anything. I saw people. I saw what was on my rug. I saw what was laid out on my table. You think this is about stains and candles? It's about trust. You didn't even ask me. We knew you'd say no. You're right, I said coldly. I would've. Silence. Then another voice. My father. We didn't think you'd understand, he said gently. You didn't give me the chance, I replied. I ended the call. Not angrily, not dramatically. Just finally. Then I sat on the bed someone else had made for me, in a room that was supposed to be mine, and stared at nothing. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just started planning. Because I wasn't going to let this go. Not this time. 3 days passed. The police hadn't called again. I hadn't spoken to my parents. The cameras had gone quiet. My house sat still, finally, but it didn't feel like peace. It felt like the silence that follows an earthquake, too still, too clean, like the world was holding its breath. Then late Thursday night, I got a message. Not a call, not a text. A Facebook message request from someone I hadn't seen in years. Diana Rivers. One of my mom's old friends. She used to show up at our house when I was a kid, always barefoot, always smelling like patchouli and carrying herbal tea blends that looked like they were scraped off the forest floor. Her message was short. Hey Rachel, I just wanted to say, I didn't know. I was told you were okay with it. I'm really sorry. If it helps, this is the site they use to organize everything. A link followed. I hesitated. I didn't want to click it. I already knew what I'd see. I already knew that whatever I was about to find would change something I couldn't put back. But I clicked. The site was pristine. SerenitySpark.net. Muted sage greens, gentle fonts, soft animations. It looked like a retreat center's website crossed with a luxury skincare ad. The header read, Curated Spaces for Collective Awakening. I scrolled. There was a calendar of events. Every session had vague names. Fire Within, Body Trust, Sound Surrender. Suggested donations ranged from $400 to $950. Each location was anonymized with phrases like Eastside Haven and Neutral Sanctuary. But the photos, those weren't anonymous. One of them showed a wine glass resting on the edge of my reclaimed wood coffee table. Another had a close-up of a patterned rug, my rug, the one my mom used to say was too plain. There were more. My throw pillows, my bookshelves, my house in soft focus, filtered and staged like a lifestyle Instagram post. And at the bottom of each event listing, host Liza Quinn. I stared. That was my mom's old hippie nickname, Liza, spelled backward. An alias. The contact email was an old account she used to use in herbal remedy forums back in the early 2000s. She hadn't just used my house. She'd built a business around it, a network. I sat there in the hotel bed, laptop glowing in the dark, feeling my pulse in my teeth. This wasn't a one-off. This wasn't a lapse in judgment or a small gathering that spiraled. It was a system, a side hustle, a secret retreat empire built on trust I never gave. And suddenly all the little moments made sense. The way my mom had always known when I was traveling. The way she'd insisted I give her a spare key, just in case. The way my sister once joked, "It's like your house is a public utility," and I laughed because I thought she meant I worked too much. But they weren't joking. They were using me. Using my house, my absence, my silence. And the worst part? They didn't even hide it that well, because they didn't think I'd ever look. They didn't think I'd ever fight back. They thought I'd keep nodding, keep being the strong, understanding one. The one who always has enough to share, even when she's never actually offered. But that night, staring at the website, I felt something new. Not rage, not grief. Resolve. They wanted a sanctuary? Fine. I'd give them one. Just not the kind they could walk into. They didn't come right away. Not with apologies, not even with excuses. They showed up 4 days later, unannounced, like always. It was a Sunday, late morning. The Oklahoma sun poured through my hotel curtains. I was packing my suitcase when the doorbell rang downstairs in my Ring app, and there they were. My parents. 2 figures standing on my front porch, side by side, both looking like they'd aged 10 years in 4 days. My mom's scarf was crooked. My dad wasn't even wearing his usual pressed shirt, just a gray hoodie in regret. I didn't answer the door. I watched them knock, twice. Then my mom pulled out her phone. It rang once on my end before I picked up. "Rachel," she said, exhausted, "you didn't have to escalate this." I stared out at the hotel parking lot. A mother was buckling her toddler into a booster seat beside a minivan. A man walked a dog across the street. Life, for everyone else, just kept going. "I didn't escalate anything," I said. "One of your guests called the police. I didn't even know it was happening until I watched it on my own security feed." "But you told them everything." I told the truth. There was a pause, tight, wounded. "We were trying to help your sister," my mom said quietly. "She and Dan were struggling, the mortgage, the job market. The boys needed more space." "So you used my house?" "You were barely home," she replied too quickly. "That doesn't make it yours." My father chimed in. "We couldn't use ours. People know us here. Yours was neutral. It worked." "Neutral?" I repeated. "That's what I am now?" They didn't answer. Just stood there, on my screen, still believing this was something we could walk back from. Still believing family meant I would always eventually give in. I hung up. Not because I was angry anymore. Because I was done. They left a few minutes later. The fallout wasn't dramatic. That would have been easier. It was quiet. A zoning complaint arrived in my email inbox from the city. Turns out, my home had been reported as an unlicensed event space. A week later, a cease and desist. A letter from the IRS followed. Unreported income tied to an account I'd never opened but was linked to events in my name. Then came the lawsuit. Not against me. Against them. One of the guests, a man who'd attended several sessions, claimed emotional distress and breach of privacy after learning he was being recorded in a home he thought was fully consensual. He had screenshots, testimonials, a lawyer. My parents didn't go to jail, but they paid. Financially, socially, quietly. The Healing Circle crowd dried up fast. The website was taken down. The domain expired. Their phones stopped ringing. And eventually, so did mine. My sister called once, just once. "I hope you're satisfied," she snapped. "Excuse me?" "They were doing it to help me. Now we have to move. They can't help with the mortgage anymore. You could have protected them." "They didn't ask me," I said. "They didn't ask you either, did they?" Silence. Click. That was the last I heard from her. I sold the house, quietly, no listing, just a real estate agent and a signature. I packed up what I needed and walked away. The new place is smaller, 1 bedroom, simple. It smells like paint and possibility. And I didn't give anyone a spare key. No more winky-faced texts, no surprise guests, no secret gatherings in the name of love disguised as ownership. They thought I'd protect them. I thought they'd protect me. We were both wrong. We didn't fall out. We just stopped pretending we were still in orbit. And that somehow was worse. Sometimes betrayal doesn't come with shouting or slammed doors. It comes softly, through favors dressed as care and love that forgets to ask permission. But here's the truth no one tells you. You are allowed to set boundaries, even with the people who raised you. You are allowed to reclaim your space, your voice, your peace. Forgiveness doesn't always mean return, and healing doesn't have to include everyone. If you've ever felt like the selfish one for saying no or the cold one for walking away, just remember, sometimes saying no more is the kindest thing you can do for yourself. And here at Sweet Revenge Happy Ending, we believe in that kind of ending. So if this story spoke to you, don't forget to share yours below. And until next time, protect your space, protect your peace. You deserve both.